Okay, so I think we can just start to get warmed up. Just to introduce myself, my name is Mark Raymond, and I am the Director of the Graduate School of Architecture here at the University of Johannesburg. Just confirming if Adeshnee and Boitumelo, if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up or let me know.
Yes, Mark, we can hear you.
Can hear you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So welcome. Thanks so much for coming to our presentation. As I indicated, we are here to share with you information about our Masters in Design, Theory and Practice. It's a program that we've started, and we've had one graduate from it already, and we're hoping to develop and build on it in the coming year, hopefully recruit some eager minds to work with us at the GSA and to develop the program here. So as I said, I am the director of the GSA. The Graduate School of Architecture is a division of the Faculty of Art, Design and Architecture at the University of Johannesburg. And we offer a range of programs. And today what I'm going to do is talk through the programs, and specifically I'm going to introduce you to the Master in Design, Theory and Practice. Yeah, the Graduate School of Architecture, University of Johannesburg. The GSA is actually a new school at the University of Johannesburg. In the Faculty of Art, Design and Architecture, we have the Department of Architecture. And in 2016, the Graduate School of Architecture was launched, in a sense, from the Department of Architecture to focus specifically and primarily on postgraduate architectural education and research. And it's an independent school within the faculty. We have a very good relationship with the Department of Architecture. There are many people who teach in the Department of Architecture who teach in the GSA and vice versa. So it's we're open in relationship to and have a relationship with each other, but offer at the Department of Architecture undergraduate programs and at the Graduate School of Architecture postgraduate programs. And today I'm going to talk to you about the Master of Architecture in Design, Theory and Practice, which is a dedicated program based here in Johannesburg. And it's, I think, an important dimension and aspect of the work we do. It's not that all the work we do is centered on Johannesburg, but I think it's clear to say that the work we produce, the research we produce, is definitely very much focused on Johannesburg, on South Africa, on the African continent, and within the African diaspora. That's our focus. And whilst we engage with a variety of discourses and ideas, the idea is an interest in the generation of knowledge around architecture, within the discipline of architecture, that is focused on the production of architecture in Africa. That's a really critical part and dimension of the work that we do. This is an interesting map, diagram, that is from a publication called Architecture, Apartheid and After. It's a publication that was produced in the 1990s, edited by Hilton Juden, who's a professor at the University of Witwatersrand. And it was produced in the 1990s to, in a way, create a kind of map of ideas that were emerging in South Africa at the time, that were produced by a variety of different practitioners. And whilst the production of this was primarily driven by the discipline of architecture, there were a variety of contributors to it. You can see Ivan Vladislavich, you can see Santu Mofokeng, a photographer, you can see Stephen Hobbs, who's an artist, a variety of practitioners who are not all architects, but who are all interested in the condition of South African space and the impact of architecture on that space, largely emerging from the experience of apartheid, but in a way trying to speculate on the production of space in a way that allowed the discipline and understanding of architecture to advance. And I think it's very much a space in which we believe at the Graduate School of Architecture that we're trying to develop our own strategies and our own ways of developing architectural thought and architectural ideas, this is the context in which we very much see that we operate and that we work. And a very important idea for our school is the idea of transformative pedagogy. It's a term that was developed, established by the founder, one of the primary founders of the school, Professor Leslie Locke, who was instrumental in the establishment of the school. And the idea of transformative pedagogy, pedagogy is the science, the understanding of teaching and learning. And the idea of linking that teaching and learning to the bigger idea of transformation. So rather than comprehending or understanding or framing the understanding of architecture in a sort of broader, more generic, universalized understanding that's embodied within Western concepts, contemporary Western concepts of architecture, the idea of looking at architecture through the lens of transformation. We're trying to develop ways of understanding how architecture could be taught, researched, understood through the lens of transformation, through social, political, and economic lenses. And coming from that, we're trying to develop the idea of transformative practices, the ways of understanding architecture, how architecture might be implemented, how it might be practiced, how it might be developed and generated within the context of a progressive and understanding of society. So moving from transformative pedagogies to transformative practices, that's in a way, the ethos of the school. So we're driven by what we think is quite a contemporary agenda, one that recognizes and acknowledges the canon of architecture, but I think more importantly, recognizes that there are canons of architectural knowledge, some of which in a way still need to be written. And at the school, our primary program is the professional program, which is a joint program, and it's a program that's built and developed around a unit system, what we call Unit System Africa. So rather in our main professional program having kind of courses, the programs are built or developed around discrete units, where unit leaders and supported by unit tutors develop a theme or an idea about architecture that is then developed throughout the year in what we call a vertical studio. So if you enter the GSA in the professional program at the honours level, you'll find yourself in a unit with students who are studying at a master's level. So the studio is understood as a vertical studio. And through experiential learning, through developing projects that are set by the unit tutors, the unit leads, we develop a variety of approaches that are all built around this transformative conceptualization of architecture and architectural knowledge. We have a diverse student body. We also have diverse student staff. We also have a diverse body of students, of staff teaching at the school. So we practice what we preach. So not only is the content of the course reflective of the society, but the student body and also the teaching staff are reflective of the diversity, the multiplicity of the society. And aside from the academic programs, we consistently offer a comprehensive public program of events and lectures. You can see here some of the posters and the promotion we've done, some recent events. Suresh Govinda, who's taught at the GSA, a practitioner, Wolf Architects from Cape Town, Cave Bureau, Stella Mutegi and Kabaki Farana from Kenya, all people who have presented, participated or worked with the school and talk about their practices and the critical nature of their practices. We host advanced design research seminars that build upon the knowledge that's generated in the school, trying to push and develop the way that architectural knowledge might be understood in more diverse and wide-ranging ways than the traditional, more orthodox formulations of architecture frequently convey or are embedded in. This is our structure. I'm the director of the school. We have the units for the unit system. We're supported by a comprehensive, highly skilled operational staff. And then we have these different, what we call programs, making, practice, architectural history and theory, and advanced design research. So we have approximately 40 members of staff who are involved with delivering our programs and events. And we offer 4 main programs. the Bachelor of Architecture Honours combined with the Master of Architecture is what we call our joint professional programme, and that leads to, in case of the Bachelor of Architecture Honours, SACAP Architectural Technologist status, and in terms of the MArch, it leads to recognition as a candidate architect. So that's our primary program at the moment. That's the program around which the school has developed since 2016. And then we now have the Master of Architecture and Design Theory and Practice, which is what I'm going to be presenting to you today. We also offer a PhD and also have a postgraduate diploma in architecture. Yeah. I'm hearing somebody who still has their microphone off. If you could just turn off your mic. Thank you. So those are the 4 programs that we offer, and we're developing and discussing today the MArch Design Theory and Practice. Before I describe that in any sort of detail, I just want to talk about the context, what I would call the context for education. I think it's important to understand the context in which education operates. A lot of contemporary thought about modern architecture looks at the history of European architecture as its kind of premise, but of course that's not where architecture began. But in terms of its sort of modern apprehension, there is this tradition of architectural education beginning at the Bauhaus, developed by figures such as Mies van der Rohe, who then went on to work in the United States, who came out of that Bauhaus tradition. And then also comparable developments and evolutions of architectural pedagogies or ideas. An important feature on the landscape of architectural pedagogy in Africa is the establishment of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, where a fairly radical program of architecture was proposed in the 1960s and subsequently developed and continues to develop, where architects, landscape architects and planners worked to formulate new curricula, new ways of understanding architecture and how it might be taught. Something that's, I think, really important to us, the idea that not only do we need to, in order to provide innovative approaches to the production or thinking about architecture, we need to have innovative and constructive and new ways of teaching architecture. So we look at models. We've looked at models that include not just the traditional Western models, but also modern models in Africa, such as the one in Ghana. This is an image of some American architects, all white males, teaching in the University of Texas, known as the Texas Rangers, who at the University of Texas developed some thinking around what he called the 9-square plan. Can you still see me? My screen has suddenly flipped. Adeshnee, are you still seeing me?
Yes, I can see you, Mark. Yes.
Okay, good. Making sure. Yeah, so he generated this idea of the 4-square plan, which was then further developed at the Hochschule für Gestaltung in Ulm in various ways. Hayduk then went on to take this idea of the 9-square plan to Cooper Union, developing more contemporary or sort of postmodern versions of his thinking. Here we have an image of Alvin Boyarsky at the Architectural Association in London, where the unit system was first established. And all of these, contributing to a variety of discourses and ideas that spread and have influenced and developed in the world. And we're looking at these not as models, not as patterns for us to follow, but just patterns and ideas and models that we can learn from. So at our school, we learn from the idea of the establishment of different units. This is Unit 10, Nigel Coates' unit at the Architectural Association in the 80s, but how these ideas can turn and change and morph and transform how we might understand or recognize or appreciate architecture. And in more recent years, figures like Harriet Harris, who is a visitor to the GSA, who in fact will be visiting us in a few weeks' time, the former dean of the Pratt Institute in New York, developing and building upon Beatrice Colomina's work on radical pedagogies, produced this book about 8 or 9 years ago, called Radical Pedagogies, in which she addressed the creation, the formulation of different ways of thinking about architectural education. So we very much see ourselves in this tradition of radical pedagogy, building upon the idea of the transformative pedagogy that Leslie Locke developed at the GSA when it began in 2016. We're keen to see ourselves in a way as part of a tradition, part of a kind of trajectory of architectural education that situates itself, that directs itself, that grounds itself in an understanding about how we might understand Africa. And this quote that I won't read out is a text from Ashion Bembe, who's thinking about Africa, whose contemporary thinking and speculation about Africa and how we understand Africa, I think is something that's very, very critical and important to how we locate and situate the school within contemporary African society. The idea of creating spaces that are validated, that are formative, that create a sense of center and belonging, from which knowledge can be cogently and articulated and developed. And the school has a history of engagement with creative practitioners locally as well as internationally. Here we see a meeting that took place at the GSA in 2018. I was present at this meeting that had practitioners from Syria, from Central America, from India, from Cape Verde, and also practitioners from South Africa, who all participated in an engagement and a discussion about what architecture might do, what it might become, and how it might be formulated within the context of the school as part of a continuing discussion and engagement. Here is Simple Matsipa, who's currently a visiting professor at Columbia, Kabaki Karen in the background, both who've all been active participants in the dialogue around the school. Sumaya Valley, who now practices in London, internationally, as the founder of the practice Counterscape. Next to her, Tom Chapman, who's also taught at the school, who's currently a professor at ETH in Zurich. So the impact of the school and the practitioners within the school is spreading and having impact. This is the presentation of a student in the old sort of space that the school rented in Madibeng. Some early work and examples of work being produced by students who emerged from the school. And all these students working within different units under a variety of different themes. Here's Nomalanga Maklangu, a student at that time in Unit 15X, now co-leads Unit 15X and also teaches at the Department of Architecture, presenting today at the DEFSA conference alongside Sipiwe Mlambo, who's another graduate of the school. So we see the school as a place where futures are built, where practices are built, and where we present the work of practices, present the thinking that is taking place around the production of architecture within Africa and within the diaspora. And we look outside of Africa for practitioners who also practice critically, who practice in ways or in idioms or in modes that we think we can learn from, and we invite them into the space. We invited 2 years ago Leslie Locke and Sumaya Valley to come back and speak about work that they were doing. R&R Studios from Miami. I hosted a couple of years ago with Dorothea Ottaviani a series of seminars entitled Transformative Practices, where we looked and started exploring ideas around design research, and again invited practitioners who are undertaking speculative work, researching ideas and exploring ideas within the realm of architecture, within the realm of design, that we felt could substantiate or help to support the research we're doing here. Anastasia Samolova, Russian Miami-based photographer, looking at environmental change in the world. And I'm sharing all these just really to show you the range and diversity of the type of work that we do at the school in our engagement with architecture. So we don't see architecture as being a sort of body of knowledge that is written in a book and you attend school and then sort of memorize the chapters of this book. But we see architecture as a kind of much more expansive, dynamic, diverse field that is defined through the practices that we deploy within it, and is constantly changing, constantly morphing. And that the educational space that the Graduate School of Architecture offers through the unit system provides a kind of scaffolding or a framework within which students, whether they're studying the professional program or those of you who are interested in registering for the MArch Design Theory and Practice, can deploy your own knowledges, your own curiosities in uncovering aspects or dimension of architectural knowledge and research. We also host series of lectures last year. We're doing it again this year, but these are the images of the lectures last year by practitioners, people who are practicing in South Africa. In this case, we had Phil Mashabane, Mokena Mokeka, who's now become advisor to the Dean, Vice Dean at Cooper Union, president of the South African Institute of Architects, Heather Dodd, who also works with us with our professional practice programs, Henning Rasmus and Antonio Revitz, the former partners of Paragon, now have their own practices. So it's a diverse and inclusive place in which we offer this program. It's a Master in Architecture, Design, Theory, Practice, and it's an NQF Level 9 qualification. And the intention of the qualification is to provide a kind of framework within which independent study can be undertaken by those who are enrolled or registered with us on it. And it can take many forms. Essentially, it can be purely textual, the output of the research. It can take the form of a traditional form of research, that it could be a dissertation, an essay, an extended essay, generally of around 60,000 words around a particular specified theme, and perhaps a kind of more traditional way around any of those ideas of design, theory, and practice. Or it can be a combined output. It could be a combination of text and portfolio. So Yusuf Patel, who is the first graduate of this program, built upon the work he had done, developing on the work that he'd done as a graduate of the professional program, looked in his case to the idea of complicit architecture, the complicity of architecture in his case, in the apartheid regime, focusing on John Foster Square police station and interrogating through using sort of interrogative techniques of representation, the spaces of torture that existed within that building, and speculated on how we might understand architecture as being complicit in the project of apartheid and within societal, political, and economic production. That's one example of a student who undertook research using representation, using a portfolio, as well as a text to undertake his research work. So how the process works is that, when you apply, we would meet with you, we would discuss with you the possible trajectories that your research could take, whether it lands in practice, theory, and design, or whether it embraces all of those, or whether it combines two of those. We look at possibilities for your engagement within the unit system. There might be one of our units with whom your particular or specific research interests are closely aligned, in which case, whilst you're not studying for the professional degree, you could embed yourself within one of those units. So you use the structure of the unit system to develop your research. The idea would be also that participants in the program would also meet within their own dedicated seminar groups. So we could have this sort of cross-fertilization of ideas through discussion and engagement through the seminars. So it is an open system, a system supported by the structure of the unit system if required, or it could be a more independent form of study, adopting a more traditional form of research. In a sense, we've got an open experimental space with which you can work. We have recently moved into new premises in Auckland Park in the old Media 24 building, and we have extensive accommodation here. We can provide you with a dedicated space to work, with the support necessary for the conducting of research at this level, and what is a really very, very dynamic community of research, innovation, and design. I'm sharing with you here the email of Adeshnee Reddy. She's the Academic Administration Manager for the GSA. And if you have any specific questions after this, and we will have a Q&A now, but you can always direct any questions that you have about our program to her. She will always be able to answer them in terms of how you register for the program, or if you want to meet with myself or any of the GSA staff to discuss possibilities, to follow up with any curiosity you might have about pursuing a program here. She would be the person who would be your point of contact. And she's also with us here this evening at this session, so if you have any questions that specifically to registration or to enrollment or registration or fees or so on, you can direct questions to her. So that is the end of my presentation. I've tried to give you an overview of the school, the context of the school, how we believe that this program is located within a broader discursive context around architecture, how it fits within the school. And just to make very clear, this master's is distinct from the professional SACAP masters that we have. So as I said, we recently were successful in our accreditation with SACAP, our second accreditation since the school began. But this is not a professional degree. This is a purely research degree. So anybody that has an honours level qualification can enter this and study for a master's or an equivalent NQF level rated qualification, can register for this. And it's also maybe a good bridge for students who are interested in research who may want to advance to a PhD. In exceptional cases, having done a year of the Master of Architecture, Design Theory and Practice, you can apply for this to be considered as the first year of a PhD. So it's something that can lead ultimately to a PhD. That's not the norm, it is an exception, but it's something that can lead you to study at PhD level. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And if there are any questions, you can either put them in the chat or you can put your hand up and share your screen and let me know what your questions are. Please don't be shy. The whole point of this session is to invite questions and to find out a little bit about anybody that's interested in it. So please feel free to put your hand up and ask a question, or please put your question in the chat, and don't be bashful. It's probably a new experience for you to be in a setting like this. I don't know, maybe not, but it might be a new experience. But this is the opportunity for you to ask questions and to share any comments you might have, or if you have any curiosity about the program, to share that with us now. So please feel free to ask questions or to share any questions or to share any comments you have.
Thanks for that presentation, Mark. I think that was great. I sort of have two questions. My first one being, you said that the unit system is a vertical studio,
Yes.
meaning that you would sort of enter the unit at an honours level and then go into it to masters. My question is, if you've completed your honours at another university, could you enter at masters to complete your masters?
Right, so you could enter Master's Design Theory and Practice, which is the program presented there. But that's not the professional program, that's a pure research program, what we're discussing today. Yes. But if you have done your honours at another program, then it's not possible to enter our professional program masters. A prerequisite for that is that you have studied with our honours program. But for the Design Theory and Practice masters, absolutely you can enter that. And you can also be part of the unit system, although your degree would not be the professional degree, but you could participate in the activities of the unit or be a member of that unit as you study for your Design Theory and Practice qualification.
Okay. And with you saying that being part of the unit system, if your research, for example, that you want to sort of base off of 2 units, if I'm understanding that each unit has a specific theme.
Yes.
Could you do that? Could you sort of mix the 2?
Yes, I think so. I think it would be sort of subject to a discussion and a negotiation with the units. I think if you had an interest in 2 of the units and you shared with them your own research interests and there was a sort of parity, I'm sure that is something that we could certainly look at. I don't see that as being a problem. The space here is shared. All the units know and see each other. They schedule their crits and their reviews at specific times. So you could possibly dip into all of the units if you wanted to. But yes, certainly if you wanted to align your interests with 2 ranges of interest, So I'm sure that would be welcome. And I think that's exactly the sort of cross-fertilization of ideas we'd be keen to embrace.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks.
So if you want to follow up, please feel free to email Adeshnee, and she'll be more than happy to address any further questions, or if you wanted to meet with me, have a session with me, I'd be more than happy to meet you individually.
I will. Thank you. Thank you.
But those are two lovely questions from Michaela. Is anybody else? There was another hand up and then it sort of disappeared. But don't be shy. This is a really good opportunity to ask questions and to get an idea of the work we do. Don't be bashful. If there's something you don't understand about what I explained or something that's not clear, then please feel free to raise your hand and ask the question. Or if you've got a comment that you'd like to share about what I shared with you, then let us know your thoughts or your reflections. Or perhaps with a show of hands, I know Michaela seems interested. Is there anybody else present in the session that is interested or curious to find out more about the program? If you are, we can also organize something here at the school. If we know that there are a few people interested, we can organize a few hours where you can engage with the students and the staff on a Thursday, which is our studio day for the unit system. Great, I've got Yako Dumiso, you have a question, please go ahead. Unmic yourself and let's hear what your question is.
I did my M1, meaning the honors, when I think Leslie was still there. And I mean, additionally, you should know this information.
Oh, yes.
And so I just wanted to know, like, I was in unit 13, so yeah, but I had keen interest in coming back, but I just wanted to know, like, right now, because right now I'm working full time, so I was wondering if has the GSA program now been able to be offered like part time, or it's only purely full time? Because I know that since I did the original one, which was like the one which was based on design with the unit system, which if I'm gonna do my the honor masters, will still be that one, but now adding on from the honors. So I don't think I'll be then wanting to do the research based one, because I'm still interested in that one. So I want to know, is it done now? Is it offered part time, or it's only still full time?
No, they're full time. But having said that, I'm certainly aware that there are students who also work, and whilst they're studying, I know that many of our students continue to work. But it is a full-time program that does require sort of full-time attention. The MArch DTP, I think, would be a program that would be definitely possible to follow over 2 years. So you could sort of, in a way, spread out your study over 2 years if you wanted to. Obviously, that would have a financial implication as well as a time implication. But yeah, the programs are full-time programs. They require you to be here and to work here. But as I said, we do have students who are also working. I know that for sure.
All right. Yes. Okay. No, thank you for that answer, Mark. Because I think I'm speaking for the larger audience here, and when I say this, because I think we do come across to a point where we have to either choose work or coming back to finish your master's in the instance. So it becomes like a difficult choice for one to make. That is it really something that you want to do now, or you put it away for a couple of years and be like, I'll come back to it, and then I'll just maybe when you feel like where you work, okay, they're more relaxed, you come to tell them, guys, I need to go do this. It's my life dream. I'll be back. So I think it always depends on that, and I think a lot of people are afraid to usually engage in that question and ask about it and maybe seek advice. But I think I still believe in what you guys are doing there, and I still think it's amazing work. Although, see, I haven't been able to attend any of the lecture series that have been happening, and so I think these online sessions actually help us to be able to engage and still keep up with what's happening. But yeah, thanks.
Well, yeah, it's great to have you back present in something like this. But we do try and accommodate as much as we can. And as I said, there are students who do work, and there are people who begin their honours here and then take some time out, and that's something that can be accommodated within our system, absolutely. But your point taken. We are actually looking at some possibilities or some options based on some models we've seen in other countries about exploring in the future. It's not going to be next year, but looking to the future to see how we can find ways of creating a structure that would accommodate people to be able to work and study at the same time. But unfortunately, that's not in place yet. But we absolutely acknowledge the predicament of many people who have to work and study at the same time. I had to do that when I was a student, so I'm aware of the pressure that that can bring to bear. But thanks for your comment and for your contribution. We have another hand up from DIN. Din, would you like to share with us your thought or your question?
I'm sharing the same sentiment with Jaku. I was with him also at honors level. Okay. And yes, I would wish really for the GSA to look into part-time. I think Adeshnee was very supportive during my times where I struggled to juggle between work and the GSA. And yeah, I'm very much interested to come back, but I think I've got a predicament just like the previous speaker. And yeah, I would really wish for the GSA to look into, assisting. I think Adeshnee was very supportive in my days. Thomas Chapman was very supportive. Dr. Uda was supportive. And yeah, I think like you said, it's possible to do, but I think it's more possible in other units rather than other units. I later on went to another unit, which I would choose not to mention, where it was literally made impossible for me to actually, come to the GSA and work. So now I'm considering the new, program that you're coming up with. But now, like we are saying again, it will not allow me to obviously register with SACAP as an architect.
Yes.
So now I'm caught up in between. What do I do? Do I come back and do this, or do I wait for you guys to come up with part-time, your open learning like we've got in Cape Town? Right. I think also be really should be considered by the GSA. Thanks. That's basically my input. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Adeshnee, again.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, and great to hear from you. And I think we're hearing this. I think it's important information that's coming forward here, that there's a demand, desire to be here, but also the exigencies of making a living and the need to support yourself while you do it. So completely understood. And thanks for your contribution. And please, come and see us, and let's talk further about how this scenario might be played out. But as I said, at the moment, it's not possible to do it unless it's a full-time participation. But I think we really do need to start looking at those alternative options more carefully. But thank you to both of you for your comment on that. It's landed well with us. So are there any other voices here? Any other people that would like to contribute? Okay, Anne-Marie Grunewald. Anne-Marie, would you like to go ahead and share your comments?
Hi, Mark. Yes, so I've done my honours in last year there with you guys. And I was wondering, and I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding this, but at the beginning of the presentation, you spoke about the joint professional program with the SACAP one, and then the design theory and practice MArch, which is different now. And I was wondering, which route do you go if the end goal is to register as a professional architect at the end of the day? Is the route going to be longer? Is it still possible while doing the design theory and practice one instead of doing the joint professional one?
So no, the Master of Architecture Design Theory and Practice that we presented today is not the professionally accredited master's program. So we have a master's program in architecture, which is part of the joint program of which you've done the first year. So that would lead you to the SACAP professional candidate architect. This one, the Master of Architecture Design Theory and Practice, is purely research. It's a research master's degree. And this is something that could lead you to, continue a career or profession in research, or it could lead you on to doing a PhD. It's very much a research-driven PhD. You can produce design in it as a form of research, but it's not the professional qualification. It's an academic qualification, not a professional one.
And so doing the MArch as part of the joint program,
Yes.
do they also work in units? Is it the same sort of a learning environment?
Yes, exactly. The BR Hons and the MR Professional are both operate the unit system. But the idea is that if you did the Master of Architecture, Design, Theory and Practice, depending on the nature or type of your work, you could also work with the units or within the units. As Michaela asked earlier, if I was to do this Design, Theory and Practice, could I work between two units? And absolutely, I think that would be something that is possible. So we're flexible in terms of how it's structured. We're small enough and agile enough to be able to kind of customize kind of engagement once the interest is there and we're clear about what the scope of your research is.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. Okay, Din, you have your hand up again?
Yes, Mark.
Yes.
I just wanted to find out again, the previous speaker, Henry, sorry for the Groenewald. I come from the BTech side, design. I later on obviously did honors, which is your M1, when when we had Dr. Uda and others, yes. And what the university has been telling us is on the BTech level, we had BTech design and we had research.
Yes.
There was also a research kind of setup, and the research from the BTech side was presented to us also the way you're presenting, to say that you will not be able to register as a professional if you come from the research side.
Right.
To date, I know more than 10 guys, who did the research side, and SACAP actually gave them, a reg number, accepted them as professional within SACAP. So I'm a bit confused now, because I will say to you, honestly speaking, that I will be tempted to say, I'm going to join the design theory and practice, masters, and then later on, I'm just going to push. I'm going to submit to SACAP and say, you know what, I've done my masters. Give me a reg number, because I tell you, I know of guys who have done that, and today they're professional architects without having done the design route.
Right.
So there's no consistency, which is not from the GSA side or UJ, but I'm saying just from SACAP side that they're not consistent. And I mean, it's confusing us also at the on the other side. Really confused on all of this now. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for sharing that. And we have a pretty close relationship with SACAP. We've been dealing with them this year because we had the SACAP accreditation visit. But that's certainly a conversation that I'd be more than happy to continue with you. I mean, we would welcome you on our program, but obviously we would need, you'd need to be clear about what your expectation is of the outcome of that. And if you felt confident you could go ahead on that track, that would be your on your volition. But we would certainly be happy to engage with you with SACAP about that, to see what the possibilities are there. That's an interesting perspective, because I also understand that there are categories or ways in which one can become registered in South Africa: recognition of prior learning, recognition of professional experience. I'm not sure how that works within SACAP. Maybe that's a consideration that was made for the colleagues of yours that you're describing. But we could talk more about it. If you get in touch with me through Adeshnee or email me, I'll put my email in the chat. I'd be more than happy to engage with you further on this. We're keen to develop our program. We want bright young people in the program like yourself. So let's talk about it and let's find a way forward. But thanks for that comment. Michaela, you have your hand up again. Let's hear from you again.
Yes, hi. I would just like to second or third the other two comments about part-time. I do think, unfortunately, it is a deciding factor in our economy. And then I also have a question about the research part. Yeah. What is the workflow with that? Do you get allocated a supervisor that goes through step by step with your research? Sort of what is that outline?
Yeah, no, good question. Very straightforward question. Thanks for asking. So essentially what happens in a master's program is that, this is how it would unfold. Let's say Michaela, you're interested and you feel that you'd like to commit yourself to the process. So we would want to meet with you. I guess you could call it an interview, but it would be a, a discussion, a conversation. We'd ask you to meet here, or if you're in another part of South Africa, we could also possibly do it online. Have a discussion with you, find out exactly what it is you're interested in, what are your motivations, what are you interested in researching. We would encourage you to explore our units through engagement, through attendance at the events and the programs we hold here. Next week, we have 2 practitioners from Port Harcourt, Warebi and Ramota, who are coming to talk about their research. We would encourage you to start participating in some of our events, for which there is no fee. You can participate in our lectures, our public program events without charge. We'd want you to come to our summer show, so you get which is on the 24th of November this year, so that you get a feel for the school and to meet with us, so you get a sense of what's happening here as far as possible. And then the idea, whilst this is going on, you would go through the process of application. I believe that the application for next year closes at the end of October, so you would need to be applying in the next 6 weeks or so for the program. And then what we would ask you to do is we would once we've determined your interest, we would assign you a supervisor. And as I said, we have a wide range of skills and staff and a wide range of interests. We have architects who are interested in history and theory. We have architects who are actively engaged in practice. We have practitioners who are very committed simply to design and design processes. So we would assign you a supervisor and possibly a co-supervisor. And with them, you would determine the nature of the research you would like to undertake. And that might be a very specific aspect of practice. You might be interested in exploring issues around sustainability, or you might be interested in ideas about mobility, or you might be interested in ideas about Afrofuturism. You might be interested in a whole range or a whole host of ideas, or a combination of ideas. And we would try and identify staff, qualified staff within the GSA who would be interested in working with you because their research interests are aligned. And so with them, you would start to develop through the course of the year, the early part of the year, a proposal, a research proposal. And this constitutes part of the program. It would be supported through seminars and engagement with the public programs we have here, and also possibly with the units, if your interests align with the units. You submit your design proposal to the Architectural Higher Research Degrees Committee. That's a sort of GSA committee that assesses research proposals. Once they're happy with it, it's then forwarded to the Faculty Higher Degrees Committee. And once they approve it, you then advance that research project through the course of the year. And it depends on the nature of your research. Your research could be very much text-based. So you could be based here for the entire year writing, or you could be going about researching, or you might be combining the research you do with the practice that you have. Your research might even be based in your practice. It might be connected to the practice that you are doing. You might be interested in housing or a particular area or type of understanding of material science. So whatever the nature of your research is, you pursue that through the course of the year, supervised by your supervisor and co-supervisor. And possibly, if it's a strong design orientation, you might also be working with one of our professional program units to undertake the work that you're doing. You would make presentations of that work periodically at our portfolio reviews or specialized sessions, depending on the nature of the work that would take place through the year. We invite external reviewers and critics in who would help you give you feedback using specialized knowledge on the research you're doing. And then at the end of the year, you either submit your textual research or the combination of your text and portfolio to the examiners, who then assess it. And if you successfully satisfy them, you are then awarded the master's degree. So that's a very general overview. It begins with conversation, begins with this conversation actually, begins with engagement in this event. And if this is something that interests you, we'd ask you to reach out to Adeshnee or reach out to me, and let's begin a conversation about the direction that your research could take, and sort of getting to know each other so we can sort of align and customize how we provide the scaffolding and the framework for your research within the school. Does that give you a good picture, Michaela?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got Din again.
Yes, Mark.
Yes.
Last question for the evening. Yes, this is actually more to Adeshnee.
Sure.
I've been, we spoke, I think it was last year, sometimes last year, where I thought about, coming back for the research program.
Yes.
There was previously a research program. So what's the difference between this one and the other one, the previous one? I forgot. Adeshnee is very much aware. She had advised me to approach, I forgot his name, but I think it was a professor. So I beg your pardon?
It would have been Antonio Tomas.
Yes, Antonio Tomas, correct, 100%. So has this now replaced the program that was run by Antonio Tomas?
It's the same program. This is the same one.
Thank you.
Antonio is actually leaving us. He's taking up a position in California. So we will be finding somebody else to fill his shoes, but it doesn't prevent the program from operating. He was the coordinator of the program. That's the role that I am undertaking now. So the program continues, but Antonio won't be with us. Somebody else will be taking up his position. So we have continuity in how we run affairs.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. So we're coming up to an hour now. I'm happy to take any more questions. As I said, don't be shy. This is a really good opportunity for you to ask a question, or if you're not sure or clear about something, please feel free to ask it now. I'm here to respond to any queries or questions that you have. And if you don't have questions right now, but you have thought of some and you'd like to email them, please feel free to email Adeshnee. I'm just going to pull up her, actually, if you can just put her email in the chat again. I think she's got it in there. Yes, if you look in the chat, you can see the link for the application if you feel confident enough to apply directly, or you can contact Adeshnee or me. I'm going to put my email address there. You can contact me directly. I'd be more than happy to talk with you about your prospects or any questions that you have. Okay, there's a question here from Dirk Lawrence, and he says, since this MARC DTP isn't SACAP accredited, does that imply the PhD research wouldn't be either? Well, so just to be clear here, we have two masters in architecture. We have the professional one that is part of the joint program. This master's program is a design theory and practice. It's a pure research master's. So it's not a professional qualification, so it's not SACAP accredited. And the PhD is also a research qualification, so there are no SACAP accredited PhDs in South Africa. The only accredited programs are undergraduate programs or postgraduate master's programs in architecture. Andrew says, will there be an open day information session for the MARC joint professional program? There might be, yes. I think we were thinking about generally the subscription. We have a large number of applicants for that program, so we don't generally have an open day, but we can possibly organise something if we feel we need that. If we feel there's a need for that. But if you want to come and visit us, please feel free to come and visit. Just contact Adeshnee, and please feel free to come and join us. And then Kululeko Mkize says, will this master's program lead to registration with SACAP in the future? No, it won't, because we already have a master's program that does constitute or does conform to SACAP requirements. So the idea is that we have a professional program that leads to the professional qualification in architecture that is undertaken jointly with the Bachelor of Architecture Honours, but this is purely research. This is for people who are interested in developing academic research in architectural design, architectural theory, and architectural practice. This is for people who, Yusuf Patel, who recently completed this, he had a professional master's, but he did this because he wanted to pursue higher level research, and he's now pursuing a PhD at Newcastle University. So this is for pure research. The other masters is for professional practice. So we would not seek to have this accredited by SACAP because it doesn't aim to conform to the competencies that SACAP promotes with its own accreditation system. We have that qualification for those that want to do that, but this is a purely research master's degree. Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, this evening. It's nice to see there's interest in the work we're doing. We will possibly have another one of these sessions online. But if you do want to find out more, if you do want to come and visit us, if you do want to meet me or meet some of the other tutors, you're more than welcome to do so. Please just contact Adeshnee in the email that she's been provided. She'll put you in touch with me and we'll try and make some time and space to meet with you and to talk further about your interests. So I think on that note, we can end the session, and thank you for joining us. And we hope to hear from you, those of you who are interested in continuing your studies with us or commencing your studies with us. We would welcome you.